January 26th, 2000, 6 a.m. A quiet residential street in Pinecrest, Florida. Palm trees, sprinklers running, the kind of suburb where nothing ever happens. Then 3 black SUVs pull up simultaneously outside a house on the corner. Men in bulletproof vests spill out, weapons drawn. They move fast and they move quiet because they've been hunting this target for 6 months. They don't know what they'll find inside. What they find is a 16-year-old boy, still in his bedroom, still in his school clothes from the night before. His name is Jonathan James, and the United States government has sent armed agents from the Department of Defense, NASA, and local law enforcement to his front door. Not because he built a weapon, not because he stole money, not because he threatened anyone, because for the past 7 months, from a second-hand computer in his bedroom, he had walked through the most protected digital doors in the world, like they weren't even locked. How does a 15-year-old boy shut down NASA for 21 days? And why did the government that caught him never fully explain what he actually found? Pinecrest, Florida, is the kind of town that produces accountants and real estate agents. It does not produce people like Jonathan James. Born December 12, 1983, his father, Robert, was a computer systems analyst, which meant the family had computers before most families knew what computers were for. Jonathan was 6 years old the first time he sat at a keyboard. By the time other kids were learning to ride bikes, he was learning how systems talk to each other. His parents tried to limit his screen time. He bypassed their restrictions before he turned 10. Not a metaphor. He literally hacked his own home computer to remove the parental controls. By 13, he was communicating in online hacker forums under the alias C0marade. 0 instead of the letter O, the way hackers wrote in 1997. He absorbed everything: network architecture, privilege escalation, how firewalls decide what to let through and what to block. He did not have a mentor. He did not attend a special school. He had a dial-up internet connection and an appetite for problems that everyone else had already decided were unsolvable. Here is the thing that makes Jonathan James different from every other teenage hacker in history. He was not motivated by money, not by notoriety, not by politics or ideology. He was motivated by something far more dangerous: curiosity. He wanted to know if he could, and once he knew he could, he wanted to know how far that went. In the summer of 1999, he was about to find out the answer to both questions. June 29th, 1999, night. Jonathan James is 15 years old and sitting at a Pentium 266 desktop computer, the kind that sounds like a small aircraft when the fan spins up, scanning the internet for vulnerable servers. He finds one. Huntsville, Alabama, a server that someone has left improperly secured, an open door in a wall that is supposed to have no doors. He walks through it. Inside, he installs a sniffer, a piece of software that sits silently on a network and reads everything passing through it. Login credentials, internal communications, access tokens. He is not stealing anything yet. He is just listening. What he hears changes everything, because the server he has just walked into does not belong to a university or a corporation. It belongs to the Marshall Space Flight Center, a NASA facility in Alabama, responsible for developing rocket propulsion systems and the software that keeps astronauts alive on the International Space Station. A 15-year-old boy from Florida has just installed a listening device inside NASA's network, and NASA has no idea. So what does a 15-year-old do when he realizes he is inside one of the most sensitive computer networks on Earth? He keeps going. Over the next 4 months, Jonathan James does not stop. He uses the credentials he has stolen from NASA's network to pivot, moving from one connected system to the next, the way a key opens a door that opens a corridor that opens another door. He reaches the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a division of the U.S. Department of Defense, whose sole purpose is analyzing threats to America from nuclear, biological, chemical, and conventional weapons. He installs a backdoor, a hidden entrance he can return to whenever he wants. Between September and October 1999, he accesses 10 separate Department of Defense computers. He downloads over 3,300 internal emails from Pentagon employee mailboxes. He reads classified internal communications between defense officials. Then he goes back to NASA. And this time, he finds something that makes him stop. Buried inside the Marshall Space Flight Center's servers is the source code for software controlling the International Space Station's life support systems, temperature regulation, humidity control, the code that keeps the air breathable for the astronauts living 400 kilometers above Earth. He downloads it, all of it, $1.7 million worth of proprietary software, sitting on a hard drive in a teenager's bedroom in Pinecrest, Florida. NASA doesn't know it's gone. The Defense Department doesn't know their emails have been read. The FBI, alerted to the intrusions, assumes they are dealing with a sophisticated foreign intelligence operation or a professional hacking organization. They begin a coordinated manhunt. Meanwhile, Jonathan James goes to class in the morning and comes home to hack government computers at night. The FBI is hunting a ghost, and the ghost is doing homework. It is the silence that gives it away, not an alarm, not a tripwire. A network administrator at Marshall Space Flight Center notices something subtle: data moving through the system that has no obvious origin, a ghost in the traffic. They trace it backward, and they find the back door. NASA's response is immediate and total. They shut down every compromised computer in the facility, all of them, for 21 days. Not a scheduled maintenance window, not a software update. A complete emergency shutdown of operational systems at a NASA facility, costing $41,000 in direct damage and untold hours of disrupted research, because a teenager in Florida had been walking through their servers for 4 months without anyone noticing. NASA passes the information to the FBI. The FBI, who had been hunting a sophisticated foreign hacking syndicate, now has a new theory. They pull network logs. They trace the intrusion backwards, through servers in Virginia, through connections that bounce through multiple states, through the kind of digital fingerprints that only become visible in hindsight. The trail leads to a residential street in Pinecrest, Florida, to a house with a 16-year-old boy inside. They thought they were hunting a spy ring. They were hunting a kid who hadn't covered his tracks, because, in his own words, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. January 26th, 2000, the front door comes in. Jonathan James later described the moment to journalists with a detachment that bordered on black humor. "I confess, that day, I became a very popular dude at school when guys in bulletproof vests with machine guns broke into my house. They seized everything: 4 desktop computers, a laptop, a pocket computer, every hard drive in the building." Jonathan cooperated completely. He explained exactly how he had done it. Every step, every vulnerability, every door he had walked through. His father, Robert James, the computer programmer who had given his son his first keyboard, made a decision that surprised everyone. He released his son's name to the press with something that witnesses described as pride. The legal outcome was relatively lenient. He was a minor, he had cooperated fully, and he had caused no deliberate damage. 7 months of house arrest, probation until his 18th birthday, letters of apology to NASA and the Department of Defense, and a ban from using computers for recreation. The U.S. Attorney General at the time, Janet Reno, made a public statement. Breaking into someone else's property, whether it is a robbery or a computer intrusion, is a serious crime. The assistant U.S. attorney handling the case said quietly that if Jonathan had been an adult, he would have been sentenced to 10 years or more. He became the first juvenile in American history sentenced to serve time for hacking, a world record. At 16, he violated probation, tested positive for drugs, and served 6 months in a federal juvenile facility in Alabama. When he walked out, he had a plan: go straight, use what he knew, build something legitimate. For 7 years, it seemed like he had. Then 2008 arrived, and Jonathan James died, and nothing about it was simple. May 18th, 2008, Jonathan James is found dead in his shower, self-inflicted gunshot wound. He is 25 years old. He left a note, and the note is one of the most haunting documents in the history of American cybercrime. In it, he described being investigated by the Secret Service for a massive retail data breach, the TJX hack that had exposed the credit card information of millions of Americans. He was friends with some of the hackers involved. His name, or at least his initials, appeared in connected documents, but he had not done it. He wrote, "I do not believe in our justice system. I have nothing to do with the TJX story. I am far more seductive as a victim to public opinion than these 2 random idiots. Remember, it's not that you win or lose. I personally win or lose by being in prison for 20, 10, or even 5 years for a crime I didn't commit. This is my way of winning. At least I'll die free. The Secret Service had raided his home, his brother's home, his girlfriend's home. They found nothing connecting him to TJX. No evidence. No digital trail. They also found notes suggesting he had been thinking about taking his own life, an illegally owned firearm that they left behind. The official verdict: suicide. The hacker community was not satisfied with that verdict. Whispers circulated immediately. Jonathan James had accessed classified software controlling the International Space Station. He had read internal Pentagon communications. He had been inside systems that the government had never fully disclosed. What else had he found? What had he seen that no one was supposed to see? His father never accepted the official explanation. Jonathan was not suicidal, he told journalists. He was targeted. No public investigation was reopened. No additional charges were filed. The unnamed conspirator in the TJX case, identified only as JJ, was never formally identified. Jonathan James was buried in Florida, the most famous juvenile hacker in American history, dead at 25, with more unanswered questions than the night he first opened that server in Huntsville.